Welcome to the Na-Lata project, episode 8. As usual, my friend here, Fernando.
Yeah.
How you going, mate? All good?
Pretty good.
And Big Nick on the running the show again.
Yeah.
Just before we get started, obviously we like interviewing people. If there's anybody out there with an interesting story or want to come on for a chat with us, we don't bite.
Yeah, no.
Well, Fernando doesn't anyway. Nick maybe. Just get in contact with us, Na-Lata project at gmail.com. Today's guest is Jim Rowe.
G'day.
How are you, mate?
I'm good.
Thanks for doing this, man. That's awesome.
Ready to roll?
Yeah. So, you've been in the music industry a long time. Just to name a few things, you've been you're a musician, a roadie, band manager, nightclub owner. The list goes on, mate.
This is the man.
Yeah.
This is the man.
Got to pay the rent, eh?
So many interesting stories. I've only touched on a few of them with you. I don't know. Where would you like to start with this, mate? Right back at the start.
Well, I reckon we start at the start, so how I got into it. And into it was a little bit interesting because I wasn't really into music, to be honest. I listened to it, but it wasn't a career path planned or anything like that. It came down to a ride hitchhiking, to be honest.
Yeah.
Changed my life completely. I'd come back from Australia and I just got off the plane. I'd come back with my tail between my legs and no money, and to get the old man to sell my guns so I could pay my bloody flight home, and hitchhiked out of the airport and got picked up by these punk rockers. Punk rockers.
What year is this, mate? So it's like in the 70s?
It's got to be 70, 78 or something.
Yeah.
I was 18, I think. And these punks picked me up, and they were the real deal, like the full like Mohawk, yeah, it's a word. And coloured hair and all that, and they picked me up, and we just became friends. And we decided we'd put a band together. None of us could play. So I went and bought some drums and hooked up with a drum tutor in Rowe we were.
Yeah.
And he turned out a really great drummer. And he, not long after he started tutoring me, he got a really good gig, which was playing with a band called Blind Date, who were an offshoot of Street Talk, which was Ham and Gamble's band. And he got the drumming gig. And not long after that, about a year after that, I'll go back a bit. We moved to Auckland because I followed him. He said, come up. So we were 17 or something at the time. We must have been 18. And there was this old villa on College Hill Road, this huge, big old villa that the Hare Krishnas had been making incense in. So we moved into that place. And he was playing with Blind Date, and I was the roadie, unpaid, and just loved it. Just loved being around them and hanging out. And it morphed from that into he got offered the gig with the Legionnaires, which were basically Hello Sailor reformed without the drummer, without Ricky Ball on drums. And he got that job with Hello Sailor, or with the Legionnaires. So it kind of morphed from doing it for fun to becoming a paid gig.
Yeah.
But the thing that always blows my mind, I tell a story a lot, is that one friggin' ride hitchhiking. If those guys hadn't picked me up, my life would have taken a completely different direction.
Yes, so many things in life, just determined on a single moment, right?
Yeah.
And it's like if something else wouldn't have happened, and you think of your own life, everything leads you to these moments,
exactly.
Right? It's crazy.
I often say to my kids, you wouldn't have been born.
Yeah.
And it's a fact, it's a fact.
Yeah. And were you hitchhiking back to Rodo's from Auckland Airport? Is that where you flew? Yeah, right.
I literally got off the plane and put my hand out. And
first mad bloody punk rockers that picked you up.
Yeah. And we just segued that way, you know.
Yeah.
And
So tell me about like the Legionnaires and how that sort of morphed into Hello Sailor. Was it all based around Auckland and?
well, Sailor were, you know, Sailor and those, you know, Dragon and those guys were the rockers. You know, they were real rock and roll. You know, and they were all sort of out of Ponsonby and that Auckland music scene. And there was a heap of good musos around. You know, your Dobbins and Citizen Band and all of those. There was so many great bands, not to mention the entire punk scene, which was completely different, but in the same town.
Yeah.
You know, you could go out any night of the week in Auckland and there'd be a band playing.
Yeah.
You know, and it was pumping, you know.
And what were the places back then? Was it like King's Arms and all that? Was that rocking back then, or what were the main sort of?
No, there was the big one was Main Street, which was at top Queen Street on the left. That's a big venue, and that can hold 1,000 people.
Yeah.
That's where, you know, bands like Chisel and I can't think of the name. All those top bands played there.
Yeah.
Split Ends played there.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
There was Main Street. There was the Glue Pot, of course, in Ponsonby. That was, you know, famous venue, which has been bowled, or not bowled, but turned into accommodation, I think.
Oh.
Yeah. There was numerous little clubs. You know, later on there was Tuxedo Rock and Wildlife downtown on the water, where we worked a lot. But yeah, too many to name. They're all over Auckland. And they were all jumping, you know. The music scene was just thriving.
Yeah.
It was good times.
Yeah. And so you were sort of started out as a roadie, and then, you know, like what was the progression for you in those early days?
I was an unpaid sort of like just lugging PA gear guy, and then I progressed into, you know, lighting. So you sort of learned, you know, it's like an apprenticeship, isn't it? You know, you're on the hammer, and you know, now you can put a nail in the wall. You know, so we, you know, there was with any band you'd have any band that was sort of making progress. They always had a crew. You'd have a stage guy who did, you know, the band would turn up and everything would be set up, amps, drums, guitars would be tuned, all that, you know. There'd be your lighting guy. His gig was just purely to rig the lights, which might be anything from 10,000 watt power cans to 30, you know, in small pubs. Over the top production we had back then. And then you have sound man with these big PAs, and every band had a truck with a shitload of PA gear in it and 3 roadies.
Because all analog, I mean, it wasn't the...
No, digital. No, so it's big gear. You know, bins like that, you know. Big bins, you know. Quite often these gigs would have flights of stairs. You'd carry that shit up. You know. And some of those venues, man, be 3 flights of stairs. Hamilton had what is it now? It used to be called the Lady Hamilton. It's got those stairs at the back. It's altitude. The worst stairs.
Oh, yeah, I remember that place. I think it's a swanky wine bar now.
Is it?
Oh, yeah. It's like a lounge bar. But yeah, I think last time I was in there with someone who was of the same age as me, and I was sitting there thinking, fucking hell, this was altitude. Yeah, quite weird, yeah.
But they had stairs like that, you know, straight up.
Yeah.
And you'd have W bins like half the size of this room, you know, and you'd be like one on the bottom and one on the top, you know, little old me, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so not all bands had crews, but pretty much all, you know, because back then, like I say, a lot of people, your crew would work for nothing. Yeah. And, you know, initially. Yeah. And as you got better, then you'd progress on to, you know, bands that were really flourishing, you know. And
kicking off.
Suddenly you're on $100 a gig, which back then was good money. And, you know, but we used to do some horrendous tours, you know, back-to-back overnighters and, you know, no sleep and just kids driving trucks with 7 ton of gear on board. And
And that's just around New Zealand, just in those early days, eh?
Yeah.
And so pack up, pack down on the road.
Hideous, just you'd spend like 4 hours setting up. You know, you could get there first wherever you're going to, be 4 hours set up. Be lucky if you ate, you know, before the gig, and then band would turn up, you do the gig, which was the highlight for, you know, for your crew.
Mm.
You know, that was your 2 hours of, you know, glory.
Yeah.
You got to do your show.
Yeah,
It was the
yeah,
band's gig, but you had your light show or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
So, and then you pack down. So 3 hours to pack down, and then go to bed, and then get up and do the same thing.
Okay.
You know.
And was it sort of like consecutive nights?
Some of those tours back then would be 30, 40, 50 gigs.
Yeah.
You know, over
Yeah.
the summer.
Sure.
Pubs, you know, because back then you could play. Sometimes you used to be able to play 2 or 3 nights in one place, but that changed to become one-nighters.
Yeah.
You know,
Move
so-
on to the next. Yeah.
But it, you know, it would be little pubs or it'd be big venues depending on who the band was. You know. Yeah. So it was. She was a hard yakka. But speaking, that reminds me. I'll tell a little story.
Yeah. Go for it.
So, so I used to work for a band called the Pink Flamingos, which was Dave McCartney, right? Dave McCartney was one of the main members of Hello Sailor, and they all branched out. Graham Brazier had the Legionnaires, he had his Brazier's Legionnaires. Dave had the Pink Flamingos, Harry Lyon had Coup d'etat. Anyway, this was a Pink Flamingos tour, and it was the last night of one of those endless tours that you were just... And it was the band was breaking up, actually, so it was the last night. And it was at altitude.
Oh, in Hamilton.
It was here.
Yeah.
And the owner, Peter Burney, just bought it at the end of the night, just bought out like 40 ml vodkas, whiskies. So there's all of this booze, you know, we all got trashed. And there was a cricket game in Auckland the next day that we were all playing in, you know, social cricket.
Yeah.
And the guy who was supposed to drive the truck, Martin Williams, disappeared with the girlfriend, right? So now there's just 2 drunk roadies left. There's me and there's Terry Green who was actually, could hardly stand. So there's just me. So I had to drive. I didn't have to drive. I shouldn't have driven, but...
Oh, so it was safe back in those days.
It was safe. It was absolutely safe. So I had to get back for this freaking cricket game, right? So I had to drive. And I was fine. Got to the Auckland motorway, but I had no sleep, had I? So I fell asleep on the motorway, driving this truck full of PA, full of, you know, I don't know, a couple $100,000 worth of equipment.
Wow.
In a truck. And I fell asleep and I just veered from the fast lane across into a slow lane. I hit one of those big lights that I've got these concrete pads about, I don't know, 2 metre square concrete pads with a few, and I hit this pad, you know, flat out. Was probably only going, you know, 100 k's or something, but I hit this thing. Yeah. And apparently the truck just went straight up in the air and came back down and just opened up like a can of sardines, and all of PA just went across the motorway. So you got guitars and drums and amps and you know, the PA and the lights and everything's just trashed, and the truck and the light and me and my mate and my mate was so gone that he didn't even wake up. He was still out cold, you know, asleep. I'd hit the windscreen and come in the other way were some army medic guys who immediately like dragged us out. Well, I had actually dragged Terry out because he was asleep as I said, he was asleep, you know. Yeah. So we pull him out. And I'm getting taken off in the ambulance. I'm on the gurney, you know, because I'm quite hurt. And I'm on the gurney and he's standing there perfectly fine, but staggering around, you know, going, go on, fuck off and leave me to clean up your fucking mess. And so I go to hospital and I'm in trouble now. I'm done, you know, I'm going to get breathalyzed, you know. Nothing's going to be insured.
Oh, shit.
You know, you think about it.
Just all going on.
And cop comes in, he said, don't move. Come back in 5 minutes, breathalyse you. So he walks out the door and I go, fuck this, I'm out, man. I just hopped up and I was like, out of there, down the hallway, went to the bus stop, caught a bus and gapped it. And I never heard another thing about it.
Shit, what happened to all the
that-
gear in that?
It was all insured.
Oh,
It was all paid for.
and the cops just left you alone over it?
Yeah, well, I was gone, wasn't I?
Yeah. Bloody good.
But, you know, the truck was worth 50K.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you just
Not
dodged
to
the
mention the gear and so like I wasn't popular. Don't get me wrong, you know, some pissed off musicians. You know,
Yeah.
But I wasn't drunk, of course, so that's why I was able to leave the scene. You know,
You're lucky.
I just fell asleep.
You're very lucky.
Oh man, I was lucky to be alive. Is what it was.
Yeah.
We both were,
Yeah.
because where we hit the pole was just behind the passenger cab, so it wasn't actually head on. which was-
Yeah, shit. You're
So-
bloody lucky.
But that's how we lived, man. Like
Yeah.
you know, that was when you're kids,
Yeah.
and we were kids. You know,
Yeah.
we're 20 years old.
Yeah.
You know, and
Yeah,
And
I mean,
there's-
and you forget, you know, like you don't fucking
You
know
do.
anything when you're 20, do you?
there's been a few deaths on the road. You know, like
Right, roadies, tyre
Yeah.
roadies and whatnot. Yeah,
roadies, some good people.
Mm.
Real good dude called Laurie Bell. They were doing Berg shows, you know, like international acts and whatnot, and they were gapping from somewhere overnight, and they took a back road. Somebody just went through a compulsory stop and T-boned them. Laurie died. Herb's lost one of their guys in Lake Taupo. The truck went into the lake, and but it was sketchy. You know, there wasn't a lot of sleep had.
No. so moving forward from there, because I mean, I know we've talked to you briefly before about, you know, you sort of started branching into overseas and stuff with Midge Mars and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Was that jumping ahead too far, or I mean, like, it's,
Well, yep, that was after an interesting one. And before that was when the Cats Away, which was the all girl band.
Yeah,
you know.
and I remember them, you know, because I was obviously a kid in the 80s, but I do remember it. I remember their big hit, and I can name a few, like Margaret Ehrlich, Annie Crummer,
Diane Swan.
That's it, Diane
Yeah.
Swan. And was there 4 or 5 of them?
There's five.
Five.
There's Debbie Harwood, Kim Willoughby,
Girl
Margaret
band.
Ehrlich,
Yeah.
Annie Crummer, Diane Swan. Diane's actually, she's still going strong. She's doing that Tom Petty show at the moment, a theatre show, doing, what was his album? Can't think of it. But yeah, they're doing a Tom Petty tribute in some big theatres. So her and her man Brett, they're still going strong. They're really
still,
good musicians.
Yeah. So still in the gig scene and that. Because I mean, how old are they? They'll be 60 now. Those girls.
Man, I don't know. They'd be close, eh? Yeah.
And so, how'd you get involved with that? Because I mean, they were massive in New Zealand in the 80s.
So I rang them. I rang 2 or 3 of them and said, I'm doing this thing. Do you want to be involved?
Hang on, can you pull up when the Cat's Away? Just get them on screen, just for a bit of context for you.
Yeah. You guys said about the girls.
So back in the 80s in New Zealand, mate, when we were still kids, these girls here, and they, I mean, I can just remember them being sort of like an overnight success. There's probably a massive story behind that, but they pretty much dominated the charts and the TV, and back in the day when there was 2 channels, I think, in New Zealand. And
Wow.
Yeah, they were absolutely massive. When we were really busy, you know, the big summer tour we did, they were pulling like 3,000 people to a show.
Yeah.
You know, every day. You know, on a, and we did so many Auckland shows outside. That they were massive, eh? Yeah, and they were great. You know, their success was all down to their individual talent, but I don't know, they're just real entertainers, and they had a unique thing that they did. You know, they had a great backing band, fantastic backing band, and I don't know, they just worked at the time. You know, brilliantly.
Yeah.
But they were before the Spice Girls.
Oh, that was the original bloody girl band, really, weren't they?
Yeah, they were, man.
Yeah, before any of that sort of, you know, it was way back. When. What was that like? I had a guess, I'd say 86, 87.
Yeah.
Maybe early 85, maybe?
Might have been 85. Because,
Let's look that up, Nick. Let's have a guess.
yeah, because we did that and then we went to the States.
85.
85.
85.
1985.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I put that together. And,
I see. Did they have a little comeback there in 2000?
Oh, they've done a few little comebacks.
So when you say put that together, what was your role there, Jim?
Well, I was, like I said, I've been a roadie for ages, and you just learn, don't you, how things work. Yeah. And I had a guy who ran new music management, who was like he ran basically ran the live music scene in New Zealand, and kind of he was a mentor for me. So I learnt about all the venues because I'd been to them all, and I learnt what was involved, on a production level and marketing and all of that. So you pick it up, don't you?
Yeah.
So I rang them and I said, I want to do this thing. Are you keen? And they all jumped at it, and that was the start. Yeah. So we started off doing just shows at the Glue Pot, and we sold them out. It was about 800 odd people a night, and then it just went from there to being playing town halls and just massive shows everywhere.
Yeah, and so like the outdoor gigs here, like talk about Auckland Domain, that sort of thing, or
no, they were more like gigs you could charge at.
Yeah,
like I guess we might probably our biggest show would have been 5,000 outside.
Yeah.
But we do gigs like outdoor theatre in Gisborne, for example, because there's all these little venues around New Zealand that have been around since the 60s, which are little amphitheatres that you don't even know about it unless you've toured.
And some of the more famous ones are not there anymore, eh?
No. Bowl of Brooklands,
Sound Show on the Mount gone,
we played there, all those sorts of things.
Yeah.
Beaches mainly, in the summertime we played all the beaches.
Venues. What a bloody life. And so you were carrying around all the equipment and that, setting up, rigging it all up?
I wasn't, no.
No, not you, but like, as part of the production it was...
We carried, another story.
We could be here for hours. Hours.
We had truckloads of gear, and all the best gear because they could afford it, and we did it properly, But we had this truck driver mate of ours that we hired to drive the truck, and he drove under this bridge in Whangarei, which is low, and drove under it and peeled the roof off of his truck. Oh! Literally peeled it like a sardine can very far. And of course now it's not waterproof, so we drive around this truck with, and the gear's getting wet. And,
the convertible.
Mate, and the guys who own the truck did not want to use him. They were like, nah, we use, if you want the truck, our driver goes with it, but we insisted we had to have our guy. He blew it, But that was good. Were good times, but we went our separate ways. We had a falling out a couple of times actually, and in the end,
I can't imagine that with a whole lot of creative people together putting on a show.
5 women,
it's hard enough keeping a shitty pub band together, let alone something like that.
No. And it was a big operation, because there was the 5 of them. And I think the band was about a 7-piece band with horn section. So there's 12 musicians. Yeah. And then you got the entire crew, which is a big crew. So it was it's a big gig, eh? It's a big organisation to keep rolling.
Shit, and then there would have been all the TV stuff and all the
that's
right. Spent quite a bit of time with them and like TVNZ back in the day, I guess it was. Hey.
Yeah, they did a couple of things which really set them up. A couple of really good shows. There was a guy called Graham Thurston who did a documentary on them, which really set them up. After that, they just exploded. And they won I think they won something for Melting Pot. They won an award for Melting Pot, and they got up on stage and sang Bohemian Rhapsody a cappella. With no backing, live on TV, which is like incredibly talented. Risky.
Yeah, risky, but also very talented.
And nailed it, and so that set them up. So they had a good few years. Yeah. At the top. They did really well.
Yeah. And then there's some good, good solo careers off that. Like Margaret Early, she came out. She had a New Zealand #1, and Andy Crummer as well.
Margaret was phenomenal. She had great management, and she went to Australia and released 2 really good albums. And real quality stuff. And Annie did an album, which I don't think was great, but it didn't really hit like Margaret's. And the others, Diane, she went to the UK and did well over there with Brett. They had some success over there.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But what are we talking? How long ago was this? 85. Fucking hell.
Yeah, a long time ago. 30 years ago.
35 years ago.
Yeah, 35.
Yeah.
Shit, 35 years ago.
That's
Yeah. I was just
When do you turn into your switch for working in radio? Because you work in radio.
Yeah.
When do you start to work in radio?
I never worked radio.
I know.
No. I mainly...
working radio.
No. What I did was I toured with bands. I managed bands. I came back and we did some music festivals, and we worked at the Waikato Stadium for about 15 years doing the audio there.
Okay.
So, but following on from the Cats, after that ended, we'd made some good money, so I was bankrolled an album for, Phil Rudd, the drummer from
AC/DC.
AC/DC. He was living in Rotorua with some mates of mine, playing with some mates of mine. And they had an album they wanted to release or record. So I bankrolled it. But he wouldn't sign a contract, Phil. He just refused to sign a contract. So in the end, I just pulled the money and put it into Midge Marston.
Yeah.
And that was the Burning Rain album.
Yeah, right. Oh, is that you?
Yeah.
Bloody hell. No, we're actually sitting on the NZ Music Royalty here.
Thanks, mate. Just when you're a kid, you just go for it, don't you?
Yeah.
So Midge, we decided we were going to do an album. So we put together a great band and we toured all the songs that we thought that we would, record. And
it was Bullfrog Rada back in the day, Mitch Martin.
Bullfrog was later.
Later, was it? Yeah.
So we toured the songs to know, so we'd know which ones would work, which ones we liked, and then recorded that, and then released it, and it went really well. It was a really well produced album. It actually won Best Produced Album at the New Zealand Music Awards.
Can you pull that up, Nick?
Burning Rain, yeah.
Burning Rain, Mitch Marston. This guy is a New Zealand blues guitarist.
Guitar,
singer.
more of a singer,
Vocal,
harmonica player. Yeah, that's it. Burning Rain, 92. Yeah. So we released that, and it went really well. And then at the same time, we disappeared to the States because he got an opportunity to play at a big blues festival in Memphis.
Yeah, right.
We went over there and we played on the same stage as, believe it or not, Steppenwolf.
Chad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
that
they played before us, and we played after them.
You played after
It was bizarre.
Steppenwolf. That's amazing.
And but it was because New Zealand, every year at this festival, they would honour one country. So this year it was New Zealand, and one band was invited, and it was Mitch, because he's a great blues act. And so we got to play on the stage, and then we were to come home, right? But we didn't come home. Of course, we all gapped it, and went down to Austin, and lived in Austin.
Yeah.
And then from Austin we would tour, down to New Orleans, up to Memphis, back, just all through that area. I can't even think of the names of the places. Played in all the great venues. There was Tipitina's in New Orleans, which is on the movie The Big Easy.
Yeah. Ah, yeah.
Tipitina's.
Yeah. I remember that movie.
And in Austin was Antone's, which is a legendary venue. We had a really, really good band, and so they made waves. And see, in Austin at the time, because Austin is a university town, there's this street called 6th Street, and on 6th Street is just bars, side by side, bars. You know, just walk out of that bar into that bar. That's all there is bars. And bands in them all. But none of the bands are getting paid. You know, it's all you're playing for tips. So you have a tip jar out.
Yeah, right.
But you can't even get a gig playing for tips because there's thousands of bands.
Yeah.
But so we thought, well, we'll play jam night. So we turn up at this jam night and you get to do 2 or 3 songs. And in our band, we had a guitarist called Lynn Campbell, who's a woman. And attractive, pretty lady, and unbelievable player. And we had Dave Dobbins, drummer from DD Smash, Peter Warren, Rooter, we had him. We had Sid Limber, we had Chris Nielsen. We had all these great players, right? So we do this gig, this jam night, and everyone just goes, fuck, who are these guys?
Yeah.
You know, like literally it was, and then next minute, bang, bang, we're getting all these gigs offered to us.
Yeah, right. Who are these Kiwi boys, eh?
Yeah.
Far out.
Where is New Zealand?
Yeah.
So, but we were over there trying to, you know, get the album released in the States. That didn't happen. But we had fun.
Yeah.
You know.
And did you record the album over here or did you record it in America?
Recorded it in Auckland.
Yeah.
Mixed it in Sydney.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was all done here.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
What was the studio in Auckland back then? What was it?
Air Force.
Air Force studio.
Down in down the bottom of New Lynn, just on the way to New Lynn from the top of Simon Street. You came down. It was down there somewhere.
Yeah.
But the guy from Air Force was a good dude because he said to me when I had, you know, Phil Rudd and the boys in there, he said to me, mate, these guys are wasting time. They're spending all your money. They're just getting pissed and having, you know, and wasting time. He said, I'll tell you what, I'll refund you all the time that they've used, put it into something else. I was like, fine. That's when I rang Midge and said, hey,
Let's go for that.
do an album. But if it wasn't for Tim, you know, that wouldn't happen. You know, who owned Air Force at the time.
Yeah.
So it was a really, you know, generous gesture.
Shit, yeah. And that kicked that off the whole of the next chapter, really.
Kicked off 20 years, pretty much.
Yeah, 20 years. So, yeah.
Oh, Midge and I pretty much worked together for 20 years.
Yeah, right. And how long were you in America, mate, with that?
It was just only short stints. We had a couple of stints of 4 or 5 months.
Yeah.
And then...
Back to NZ.
Then to London, because we had a mate in London, and he booked some gigs in London, which was cool, which was really cool. He rang up, we were in Austin, and he rings up. I don't know how he tracked us down, but he rings up, what are you doing? Come over to London. I said, fuck you, we'll come to London.
Okay.
Yeah. You insist. So instead of coming home, we went, you know, to fly out of New Orleans. We literally went New Orleans to London. And, you know, really, I had been, but most of the guys hadn't.
Hadn't been to the UK, yeah.
And the gigs were good, you know, he'd done really set these gigs up. We played Ronnie Scott's, I don't know if you know Ronnie Scott's.
It's pretty legendary, right?
The jazz club we played there.
Yeah.
And Outback, which was the Kiwi Australia pub.
Oh, no, that was the Walkabout, right?
Sorry,
the
Walkabout. Yeah, not the Outback. Yeah. That's here. Yeah.
And we're way too old.
We played
some Outbacks
a few times.
Oh, God, I'm saying it now. Walkabout. Yeah, what one did you, like Fulham High Street or something like that?
The one in, the big one down, can't think the name of the place now, where in town it was.
Oh, it might have been, was there one in Hammersmith? Was it Hammersmith?
I think so.
Yeah, it might have been, eh?
Yeah, it's huge.
There's quite a few of them in that area, but just thinking it's probably a completely different era. It all sort of changed, because I know there's like when I was there was like stories of the church, which was and then by the time I got there, it sort of changed venues.
That's right.
Legendary stories, right?
The church was later, eh?
Yeah.
And we did some outdoor shows there and played with Chris Thompson, you know, Blinded by the Light.
Yeah.
Lead singer from Manfred Mann.
Yeah.
Played with them.
Yeah, I know the songs. Yeah.
And there's another story. No, I won't tell that one.
Yeah, we don't have to edit it too much, right?
I had to headbutt the sound man because he was doing a poor job, and then the police turned up. And of course, none of us had work visas. our keyboard player got stopped at the border. He didn't even get in, so we played. We got down, man. But yeah, it was good times.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was going to get charged and locked up, but our mate, who was a real mafioso-looking dude, you know, he the guy that laid the complaint, he took him aside and my mate had this big long leather jacket, like he looked the part, you know, and he took him aside and he said, "Listen, mate, cop's going to turn up." Because this guy had already told Mike, my mate, "I've called the police. Police coming." He said, "Mate, I know where you live. We'll track.
Are you sure you want to do
We
it?
will track you down, you know." So the cops turned up and he, you know, "Oh no, I don't want to charge."
Jeez.
Good idea.
Yeah.
Just touch and go that night. Because none of us had visas.
No,
you know,
so just-
but we were working.
Yeah.
You know,
So you would have been
playing.
on the first plane back home.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then and I mean, Mitch Marston was then touring for what seemed like years, eh?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Years and years and years. We used to bring people back from the States quite often, you know, like guests.
Yeah, to play with him or play as part of the gig sort of thing, or
Yeah, we were the first guy we brought back was, pardon me, he was a black American blues man, but he was the real deal. His name was Willie Foster. He played harmonica. And he was of that Muddy Waters era, you know. And he was from Mississippi.
yeah, the Delta, eh?
Yeah.
Delta Blues.
We just found him at this. Well, he actually was in the support band, supported us at a gig, and Midge and I were like, "Holy shit, man, this is guy's, he's for real, look at him." You know, and he was legit, you know, and he was like blind, you know, which you got to be if you're a decent bluesman. Blind Willie Foster. Not fully blind, but, you know.
Yeah.
Wasn't blind when we took him to a strip joint in Wellington, though.
Hey.
We brought him back, and he was fantastic, you know. And he was a draw card, you know. Like, so we came back on the back of Burning Rain, which it was now a hit, and we hadn't played with Willie. So we were everywhere, you know. We were in the press, and we had a really good tour. And we just kept doing it. We'd go back again, bring somebody else back. We brought a guy called Ronnie Taylor, who ended up living here, another black guy. He's passed away now. And a lady called Julianne Banks. And we brought Gordon Russell from Dr. Feelgood, the guitarist from Dr. Feelgood out of London. Yeah. Brought him out and toured with Midge. So we did a lot of that, you know, touring with guests to sort of add to the appeal.
Yeah.
But Midge he's still playing.
Yeah.
He's still playing.
How old would he be?
I can't tell him. He'll shoot me if I tell you that. He
Oh,
doesn't like He'll tell you, he'll say, I'm 50 several.
Yes.
You're well past that. Well past 50 several now. But, he's in the 70s.
Yeah.
So he's legit now. You know? Bluesman, you've got to be at least 70.
Yeah. So it's crazy. And then moving into I want to get into Strawberry Fields,
right?
If you don't mind, because I mean it was my first ever festival, and you know as a 16, 17-year-old kid, you know it was just at the start of my freedom, if you like. It was a real rite of passage for me, and it, you know, like I loved music anyway, and I you know I was a musician through school and whatnot. But, you know, just going throughout my life, from that one, I've been to Glastonbury, Have you? Yeah, cool. Yeah, you know, so everywhere I've been on my travels, I've sort of tried to take in festivals. Yeah, so, but it all started from Strawberry Fields.
Because that's cool.
Yeah.
So my first one was in Ambassador when I was 17, and that sticks in my mind, man, like, and it was the same thing, like First Bit of Freedom.
Yeah.
You know, first smoke a pot, whatever.
Yeah.
You know, just naked girls. You know.
Well, Lucy, because I think I told you the other night. So I thought I was cool, and I just bought this Vito convertible.
Nice.
Beetle, and it was. I thought it was pretty cool. Anyway, looking back now, I was like, "Well, what the fuck." Anyway,
Yeah, that's cool.
Tandy's Music in Te Awamutu, they're selling tickets to Strawberry Fields. I was like, you want to go to Strawberry Fields? Yeah, well, let's go to Strawberry Fields. So there's three of us, got it, and I can't remember, it might have been $40, $45. But back then, that was a big deal, a lot of money. So we bought three of these tickets, and we get driving over to Divvy, and my mate, we had the top down, looking cool as. My mate opens the glove box and the tickets are gone. So we spent like 2 hours on the Raglan Road looking for these frickin' tickets.
No.
Couldn't find them, so we had to backtrack to Te Awamutu, pay the money again, 3 more tickets, and we finally got to Strawberry Fields. And so we parked the car up and got through security, and just as we got through, I saw a couple of mates from TA, and they're like, oh, they were a bit older than us, and like, you boys interested in buying this joint? And we're like, yes, fuck yes, we are. So we got this thing, and by that stage it's late, right? So there's no camping spots. The only place we could find was on a hill like this. So we pitched our tent on like a 45-degree angle and blazed this joint up, and then we were all paranoid. Sitting in this tent, like peering out, like all this action going on. So we sort of spent the first 3 hours until we sort of came back down to earth, like sitting in the tent scared. Yeah, plenty of other stories from that time anyway, but that's definitely sticks in my mind. But anyway, yeah, so how'd that come about, mate? Strawberry Fields.
So we'd been in the States, myself and my good friend from Raglan, Goz, he was our roadie. We'd been in Austin, we came back and we were like, well, what do we do now? What should we do? Should we hold a music festival? Literally, it was like that. It's like, yeah, fucking, that's a good idea, let's do that. Where should we do it? I don't know, I'll find a place. So he knew a few people around Raglan. We ended up meeting this farmer, Phil Neal, and who had the perfect venue. Just right on the Raglan main road of Raglan. You literally just drove off the road and it's flat and then drops down into the centre.
And when you say perfect venue, it was a perfect venue.
You wouldn't even know it was there, you know. Yeah. And so we, let's do it. So we literally, I'm not even lying, from the day we decided to do it to the day we opened the gate was 6 weeks.
Holy.
6 weeks later.
Wow.
And we had 10,000 people there or something. And
The first one, 10,000 people.
Yeah.
Wow.
And we were not popular, man, because that Raglan Road, it was a Friday night. Everyone's trying to get home to Raglan, but no, there's like just queues of cars and no one could get past the site to get home to Raglan. And it was funny because there was not enough parking. The farmer next door opened his paddock and was charging $5 to park, whatever. And it was just totally, I wouldn't say it's disorganised, but we certainly weren't ready for that many people. People were just walking through the maze, they weren't paying, mostly people paid, but you could get in for free if you wanted to. You could walk 15 metres down there and boot through the maze and you're on the site, That was the first one. And
how'd you like for 6 weeks? How'd you advertise? Or what'd you do?
Just bought radio time, and I think we might have bought. I don't know if we bought TV that time. It was like a big word of mouth thing. Yeah. Posters everywhere.
Yeah.
Like we'd travel down to like Te Awamutu or everywhere around. We would just
plaster
put up
posters.
posters, and that shit wasn't happening then.
Nah.
There were no festivals.
Nah.
There were the big massive ones like Sweetwater's had happened and crashed and burned, and
that's right.
But there's nothing else happening. Like now in the summertime, there's probably 15, 20 different festivals. Back then we were it.
Yeah.
So, and it was Raglan, so it went off. We made money surprisingly. But then we stupidly, the next year we had to do it bigger and better, didn't we? So we had to have security, and we just went over the top and spent too much. Yeah. Putting up fences and trying to stop people getting in, and bigger production, and and spending more than we should have really. Yeah. So the second one we broke even, and the third one we lost about $100,000.
Shit. Yeah.
So we got fucking generators ripped off and tents ripped off and damaged. Three of the neighbours' cows went in the river, and we had to pay for those and just shit like that. Oh. All sorts of costs, that you weren't expecting, and so
No,
Yeah, but it was fun times. It was,
Yeah.
You know, we just did it, man. Like, you'd think a big festival like that, it'd be crawling with cops, you know.
Yeah.
No, like on the Saturday, 2 policemen, local cops, sort of strolled in and looked around and strolled out again, and that was it. You know, it was the only police we saw all weekend. You know, the traffic on the road, we just took care of it ourselves, and because no one was expecting it, you know, because they didn't. Cause back then, you didn't. Well, we didn't get resource consent, or you know, didn't go to the council and say, "Hey, we're doing this." We just did it.
Just did it. Yeah. Yeah.
And then the next year was suddenly, no.
Yeah,
You got to jump through all these hoops now.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and 90 cops turned up. You know, and it was suddenly it was.
So what was the first one? So what was the setup? Did you know you set up a stage, and because when I went there was the main stage, and then you had all the down the bottom of the hill, and then there was all the like the hippie caravans and all that. Sort of set up.
Free caravans. Yeah,
and then there was another stage up top.
That's right.
Yeah, and that was
Yeah, we had 2 stages, didn't we?
Yeah.
We went for 2 days. Yeah, and I'll tell you what though. The day before, I shit you not, there were 2 cyclones, because you're weather dependent, of course, right? Because we didn't have the flash stages then that you have now. It was like with scaffolding. With tarps, you know. But if it seriously rains, you're toast, you know. And the weather forecast was for cyclones. And there was 2 of them. There's one coming from there, there's one coming from there. And they literally met above Raglan the day before, and the whole stage was saturated. You know, everything was trashed. You know, and I was actually sitting on the stage in tears, mate. I was just like, we're fucked now. You know, because we had no money. Yeah. You know, we bullshitted the whole thing. We didn't have money to pay for anything. You know, so it was all on tick. It was all up front. You know, I thought, no. Bad idea, you know, we're toast now. But the next morning the sun came out and dried everything out, and this massive crowd turned up. Yeah. And
all the bands turned up.
It was unbelievable. It was insane.
Because it was he had it was a decent lineup of musicians too.
Yeah, we had all the top guys, like at the time, all the top bands, you know, She Hard, when they were kids, played at about 1 a.m. and was just mind blowing. No one really knew them, you know. Salmonella Dub, you know, guys like Herbs and Hello Sailor and all those top acts played, you know. And shitloads of bands you never heard of and you never hear
I mean, I remember, and I remember, and this is going back, I remember seeing Blackjack there.
Yeah.
And
Nightshade.
Nightshade.
Nightshade was mind blowing. Yeah.
And if you know, you know.
Yeah.
You know, so it's crazy. Yeah.
How long you guys been in the moment to doing there? Every year?
We did 3.
3 a year.
We did no. We did 1 that year and 2 more.
Oh, okay.
But then we did 1 in Queenstown with Jimmy Barnes as well, and because we brought a bar down there.
This guy. How'd you get a bar in Queenstown, Jim?
By sheer stupidity. We went down there to buy a house, right? Because we had this money from the festival. We had like 30,000 cash.
Yeah.
We're like, we're gonna
after everything. That's what you.
30,000 cash. That's about 93 you said, something.
Yeah.
Which was enough to put a deposit and buy a house. So we were going to go down and buy a house and set up a recording studio in Queenstown. So we go down there, me and my mate, with this cash in a bum bag, you know, literally walking around for a week, you know, or however long it took.
Yeah.
And instead of buying a friggin' house, the nightclub was for sale.
Yeah.
Right.
And this is the same frame that said let's do a festival,
yes.
right?
Yeah.
Buy the bar and they sleep in the bar. It's perfect. They have a band in the bar.
But that's right.
Yeah.
So we could, you know, well, because we'd been into that nightclub many times touring. You see, this was the venue in Queenstown that all touring bands would come to. So we thought we could buy it and, you know, make a go of it. And
Fuck the house.
It was good for a while.
Yeah,
well, we thought, you know, this will give us an income. And no, it was just disastrous. You know, it was good for about 12 months and we should have sold it.
Yeah.
But we didn't. And then it just went downhill. And then we almost went bankrupt.
Yeah. And downhill because of like things were moving on in Queenstown.
Yeah.
Scene had changed.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
and heaps more bars opening up because the
Yeah.
liquor licensing laws freed up. So
Yeah.
suddenly there was all these new bars. The local sort of moved from us to the new, and it was quite a big venue too, and it was hard to get an atmosphere in there. But we started out well because opening night, Faith No More played.
Yeah. Fuck. No way.
Yeah,
Really?
way. Yeah, it was bizarre because we were renovating it.
Faith, no way. That's amazing.
So how that came about was we were renovating the place.
You know, I've got tickets to them, and they're coming back. Well, you know, I had I had them for their concert in 2020.
Right.
Yeah, so obviously that got canned.
When are they back?
Well, hopefully next year.
Right.
They haven't announced it yet, but like the tickets are still valid. But
Right.
yeah, Faith No More, man. Oh wow, that's amazing. I had no idea.
Well, it was purely a freak because what happened was they were supposed to be going to, I think it was the Philippines, and I think Guns N' Roses had just been there and there'd been a riot and 20 people had died or something. And so their tour was cancelled. So they were sitting in New Zealand. Had they played Auckland? Maybe they had, or they were just due to play Auckland and maybe Christchurch. And they had no gigs to go to. So their promoter at the time rang me and said, "Do you want Faith No More?" And I thought,
No.
I thought he was pulling my leg, you know.
Yeah.
So no, this is what's happened. They actually need some gigs because they've got a crew. They got they got to pay the boys. They're just going to be sitting around eating money, so they need to do some shows, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we're like, shit, yeah. So
And that was opening night.
I think we had to pay them 20K. They played 2 nights. They played back-to-back shows, which obviously sold out. And I think they were 20,000 a show back then, which we easily paid for. But it was in. Do you know the bar in Queenstown?
No, look, I can't.
It was built in the 1800s, and it's down on the waterfront.
We'll be able to Google it, eh?
Probably.
Yeah.
iCarts, Devon. So it was rock. iCarts, EICHARDT.
Queenstown, there we go. Yeah, just chuck up on images there. Nicky boy.
Yeah, that's it. Down the bottom, on the left down there.
Oh, it's just probably had a bit of facelift these
Oh, there
days,
it is down the bottom right, look.
Right down there. Yeah, keep going down. Yeah,
That one.
Wow, that was...
So upstairs was the bar.
Yeah.
But you can imagine how old that is, right?
Yeah,
And it's made of stone. And it doesn't have reinforcing, bro. You know, it's not got steel reinforcing in it or anything, right? And it had this wooden dance floor, right? And you can imagine, 400 people.
Yeah.
Jam-packed, rocking out the Faith No More in this thing. How it didn't collapse, you know? So, yeah. So we got away with that one. But no one could believe it because we had this big sign out the front and we'd say, coming, this is before we opened, and you could change the letters out on it.
Yeah.
You could say, coming soon, Jimi Hendrix, or, you know, Queen, or da-da-da. So every week we'd change it. And then we put, da-da, opening night, Faith No More. And everyone went,
Yeah, right.
thinking it was just enough. Yeah. And sure enough,
Bloody Faith
and then
No
we were
More,
like, no, really.
Kicking it live. Fuck, that's an amazing story. Yeah. They would have been amazing, yeah.
Yeah, it was mind-blowing, man.
Yeah.
Because they're from, me to you away.
Yeah.
They were great too.
Yeah.
Of course.
Oh, that's such a good band.
Yeah.
One of my favourites. Well, a real, grew up with them, man.
Yeah. But it's funny. I saw the guitarist. Do you remember the guitarist wore the red glasses?
Yeah, and he had the long.
Yeah. It's super cool. But I was in the foyer of the hotel, and he was having an argument with their manager, who was this classic American little. I assume he was a Jewish guy, right? Because he's controlling the money, and they always did.
Yeah.
And they were having a set 2 man, and he was like, "I want some money," and he wouldn't give me any freaking money. And I thought, these guys are huge, give them some money.
Yeah.
But it was just the reality of what life really was on the road. Those
Yeah.
guys would have been on, you're getting this much a week.
Yeah, and they would have been on some, like, back Payday record deal, I would imagine.
Yeah,
yeah.
they'd have been on.
They would have had some up front at the start and that old music business, eh, mate?
Yeah. But yeah, it was actually turned out to be hard times down there. I wish I'd never bought that club.
Yeah. And how long from start Woe to go?
3 years.
3 years, yeah.
Yeah. We had really good business partners who pretty much, took a huge hit.
Yeah.
And really good people. And fortunately they survived it, and we all survived it, but it was a good lesson.
Yeah.
But, we weren't pub owners. I just wanted to sit around the other side of the bar and drink. I didn't want to be behind the bar.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like that.
Yeah.
But we did a lot of good stuff in there. We did heaps of things in there.
Yeah. And kept it, was it mainly just as a live music venue?
We had
all sorts of
we had
stuff.
boxing in there.
Oh, did you? Nice. Yeah.
And mainly live music though.
Wow.
We used to do things like, remember when back in the day when David Tour was fighting?
Yeah.
And his fights were on TV3. We couldn't get TV3 in Queenstown, right?
Oh.
So we'd drive down to Lumsden, record the fight, bring it back and show it on the big screen in the pub, and make everybody sit through all of the preliminary fights while they're drinking, and then Tour into the ring and knock the guy out in 30 seconds. It was like, these guys have been in there for 4 hours. But you had to, make a dollar.
So what next? What after Queenstown?
What the hell happened after Queenstown? I can't remember.
Does that sort of go into the stuff at Waikato Stadium?
Yeah, we came back. Played with. After Queenstown, I toured a lot with Midge.
Yeah.
Because that was around the same time. Then I ended up drumming with Midge, which was pretty cool. Did that for quite a few years. Just with Bullfrog, actually. Yeah. Midge and Bullfrog, Rata and myself.
Yeah.
And that was cool.
Yeah, that would be sweet. So you were a drummer? You were a drummer? Yeah.
I was pretty average to start with, but I got good.
Yeah. It's just time on the ground. I'm a drummer too. And
right.
Yeah. But it's, it's time on stage.
That's right.
It just is. Yeah.
Absolutely right.
Yeah, it's no.
No, it was a real privilege to be playing with him. But yeah, I think because what happened after that? We got into production because we managed to nick the PA out of the club before it went bankrupt. Well, it didn't go bankrupt, but it
got out of it. Yeah.
We had the PA, so then we started doing production, and then we got in the second year of Super Rugby we got the contract for Stadium, which is 18 years ago, I don't know, something like that. And we went out and bought a big PA, spent $100,000 and bought some really good JBL gear and did that for about 15 years. We were Simon and I.
Yeah.
We were the.
Oh yeah, I remember. Yeah, I've had a few conversations with Simon about that.
Doing all sorts of stuff, man.
Because you guys have basically fitted that stadium out, didn't you? With all the sound gear and everything like that.
What we did was we rebuilt it.
Yeah.
Because it was before the Rugby World Cup and it was starting to fall out of the speakers are falling over and some of them are blown, and so we pulled 60 speakers out and stripped them back to every nut and bolt and rebuilt them and put them all back up. And it's quite a big gig.
Yeah. 2
of us did it. Cranes on the field, like craning you right up into the. So you'd imagine, that's how heavy those cranes are.
Yeah.
So they had to roll out big sheets of ply for the crane to
get it on the field. Yeah.
Otherwise, wreck the field.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did. I don't think I missed a game in 15 years.
Yeah, right.
Every Chiefs game, every Waikato rugby game, there's a bit of league there.
Yeah.
Every league game, soccer, FIFA World Cup, women's under 17, I think was there. All sorts of events.
Yeah.
Crusty Demons, remember that?
Yeah.
Motocross.
Yeah, they did all that there too. And so when you're doing, you're actually running the sound as well.
Yeah. So we just like this, we've got a sound desk. We've got mics. We've got roving mics, radio mics. We used to put some pretty decent bands on the field.
Yeah.
Pre-game. We had Dragon and bands Yeah, Dragon. Mark Hunter, right, from Dragon. You know who I'm talking
Yeah,
about, the lead singer.
Yeah.
The very first game that we did, we got Dragon, and they allowed people on the field. I couldn't believe it. You know, people were before the game, people were out on the field in front of the band, right? So Dragon plays, and they're amazing, you know. And I said to Mark afterwards, and he's a big, imposing guy, but he's got this reputation for just being really arrogant, you know, but in a good way. But charismatic as, like, unbelievably charismatic. And I said to him, so Mark, because he's a bit of an idol, you know, I looked up to him. He's a pretty cool guy. So Mark, you want to stick around and watch the rugby? And he looks at me, man, like just straight in the eyes, deadpan. He goes, I'd rather shit in my pants and let it go hard. So that's a no.
Not the biggest rugby fan.
Not at all, man. But he famously did a gig down in Dunedin, another super rugby game. They got Dragon down there, and he fell asleep in his room, hotel room, in one of the flash upmarket hotel rooms down there. Fell asleep and left the bath running, and just flooded the place.
A few stories like that.
Yeah, and he's a legend.
Yeah.
Absolute legend. But yeah, we had some pretty decent acts, you know, Catch a Fire and you name it, the Feelers, all those guys played the stadium, and we had the stage that would roll out, and it had these big aircraft tyres on it, so it wouldn't damage the pitch.
Oh yeah.
So we'd roll this thing out, and it'd be all set up, and we'd just plug in a cable, and that was all your, you know, I think we had 60 sends on it. Literally plug the power in, plug the cable in, go. Press go.
And had all the front of house stuff, everything.
Well, it was all through the...
Yeah.
Sometimes we had a PA on the stage.
Yeah.
But usually it would be...
Just
on the roof.
That's amazing, yeah.
And then if you had a test that would step up, you know, then now it's scary, you know, pressure-wise. And then the World Cup came along, and that was next level again. You know, super scary.
Yeah.
Never want to do that again.
Nah, balls to the wall the whole entire time, I would imagine.
You get it, you know, you press the wrong button, you know.
Yeah.
You know,
Televised to the world.
to the world, yeah. And I've seen it done, man.
Yeah.
I've never done it myself. I've never had a real big balls up bar. I've seen guys press the wrong national anthem, you know, the New Zealand national anthem instead of the South African one, and the choir's miming one anthem and a different anthem's playing, you know.
Do you know, I remember, just segue into a funny story about that. You remember Jimmy Thunder, right? The boxer?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
So, now I can't remember the guy who was fighting, but he was a British guy, right? So we went up to Mount Smart Stadium and pretty packed too.
It was outside, eh?
No, they'd set up it was later in his career.
Right.
And he ended up getting towed up.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, by like a British guy, underweight, but real technical. So they played the New Zealand anthem. Jimmy comes out, and then this guy comes out and like even had Union Jack trunks on, and they played the muscle, eh?
No.
Yeah, played the French national anthem.
Shit, what an insult.
Yeah, crazy.
Wow.
But yeah, you can see how it goes wrong.
Oh, there's that famous one with what's his name? White Wedding.
Oh, Billy Idol.
Billy Idol playing at the NRL, and he's in a hovercraft, and he's boosting around the field with a wireless mic. I can't remember if it was the backing track didn't go or the mic didn't go, but it was a complete disaster. Oh. And he just kept going round and round like singing, but
and it was all going on in his ear, but
it was the biggest screw up, you know. So you know, as someone who is at the control panel, it's scary, yes.
Oh yeah, especially like that live. There's no second chances. So you've got time to edit up on that. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Oh mate. Oh well. What are we at? 105.
Oh, just in time.
Just in time. I mean, we could probably sit here for another 2 hours, mate.
Oh, those are my best ones.
Yeah. Oh, bloody good, mate.
Or something.
Bloody interesting, yeah. Well, look, hey, mate, thank you so much for coming and doing this.
Pleasure.
Bloody good, man.
Yeah, we're good on
Great
you.
podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Appreciate
Hope it goes well. I'll find you some more interesting cats, eh?
Oh, yeah, bring them. Yeah, send them our way, mate.
We'll start with Simon and he can tell you all about the symphony orchestra.
Yeah, I'd love to. He's not having a bar of it though,
No,
but he's
not.
got some interesting stories.
Oh,
on
shit,
Simon.
yeah. He is, yeah.
Much more than meets the eye, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He was telling me one time about how he was. I can't remember the type of car, but it was a full service of upmarket car, and he would go his job, and he'd be dressed up in, I think, top hat and tails, right, and in this flash car to pick up people, and he'd
Serenade.
knock on the door and then play jazz flute as they came. This guy, same guy. I think it was like a junior symphony orchestra, right?
New Zealand Youth Symphony Orchestra.
Yeah, conductor, and he'd walk out on stage and pull the thing out of his and start. Yeah, and he's full on.
Oh, yeah, he's a classically trained,
Yeah,
very good musician, but you wouldn't know it.
no, it's just
Keeps them down low.
yeah, keeps it on the DL, all right. No, very good, Jim. That's awesome, mate. Thanks for doing that.
Hey, you're welcome.
Yeah, and we'll hopefully have you back sometime.
Talk again one day.
Yeah, cool. Thanks
Talk
everybody.
hunting.
Thank
yeah,
you.
cheers. Cheers, guys.